Hello and welcome back for the second part of Learning Target 9B. Today we're going to look at finding the area of a circle. Alright, so first thing is just a little bit of review from the vocabulary we looked at yesterday. So remember that the center of the circle, that's that point in the middle, and again we define a circle as being all the points that are the same distance from the center. Okay, our radius again goes from the center of the circle to the edge. That's distance there. That's what we call the radius. The diameter is that distance all the way across the circle going through the center. And the circumference again was that distance going around the outside of the circle. Okay, when we talk area, remember that we are now looking for a two-dimensional measurement, and we're looking for the amount of sort of flat area that the circle would take up. Okay, and just another reminder is that the diameter, again, is always 2 times the radius. So if I know the radius is 5, I can double that to get the diameter is 10. If I know the diameter is, let's say, 16, I could cut that in half to get a radius of 8. We're going to need to be able to go back and forth between diameter and radius quite a bit today. Okay, so for area of a circle, there's actually only one formula. So you had 2 formulas for circumference, and you kind of had your choice over which one you were going to use each time. For area, there's only one. It's area equals pi times r squared. So pi, again, that's still 3.14, and again, you can either type it in like that, or you can use the pi button on your calculator. Remember, you'll get slightly different answers depending on which one you use, but they'll both be acceptable. And then r, again, is referring to the radius of the circle. And so remember, when we square something, that means you're multiplying it by itself. So square the radius, multiply by pi. Okay, so this means that you have to have the radius to find the area. If you are given the diameter of a circle, you actually have to cut it in half to get the radius before you're able to plug it into the formula. Okay, so as we're going, I want you guys to remember that we expect you to show your work for these questions, say on a test or in homework or when we're doing things in class. So general way you can do that is to always write out what's the formula that you're going to use, because this chapter is full of different formulas. So state what formula you're using, substitute in the values that you know, evaluate it, and then double check and make sure that your answer always has a label. All right, here we go. If I gave you a circle that had a radius of 8 millimeters, what would be the area of that circle? Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down my formula. Area equals pi r squared. Now I'm already given the radius, so this is ready to substitute in here. So pi is 3.14 times the radius squared, that's 8 squared. Okay, according to order of operations, I'm going to do my exponent first. So 8 squared is actually 8 times 8, so that's 64. And then when I use my calculator and I type in 3.14 times 64, I get an area of 200.96, and this is now labeled with square millimeters. So remember, area is two-dimensional. When we use our units or put our labels on there, they should always be square units. All right, number 2, I have a diameter of 14 inches. Okay, this is not going to be helpful for me in my formula. Remember, the formula has to use the radius. So if all the way across the circle is 14 inches, then halfway across the circle would be 7 inches. So our radius is 7 inches. It's a good idea to write that down and make sure that you've stated what you're going to be plugging in. All right, so my formula, area equals pi r squared, plugging in 3.14 and then 7 squared. 7 squared is really 49, and when I multiply 49 times 3.14, I get an area of 153.86 square inches. Okay, let's look at the next one. I'm going to give you a moment here. I would like you to try for number 3. So if we have 15 millimeters here labeled, so think about what piece of information that is and see if you can find the area. Alright, so this is the radius, so I'm using area equals pi r squared. I'm plugging in 15 for r, 3.14 for pi, like always. 15 squared is 225, and when I multiply pi times 225, I get 706.5 square millimeters. Okay, go ahead and work on number 4. So again, think about what piece of information you have. If there's anything you need to figure out first before you can use your formula and find the area. Okay, so you were given the diameter this time. If all the way across the circle is 18, halfway across the circle would be 9 inches. So radius is 9. As I plug in, that's going to be 3.14 times 9 squared. 9 squared is really 81. And then when I multiply, I've got 254.34 square inches. All right, last example. Your dog is out in your yard on a leash that's tied to a post in the ground near the middle of the yard. The leash is 12.5 feet long. What's the area of the yard that the dog can reach? Okay, so if you can visualize this, if your dog is on a leash and it's just tied to like a post in the ground, the dog can go 12.5 feet in any direction, which essentially means that he can move sort of in a circular area, right? So if the post is right here at the center, he can go out 12.5 feet in any direction. Okay, so essentially the leash is like the radius of the circle. Okay, and so we want to find the area that the dog can get to, and so we're going to use our formula, pi equals r squared. We're going to plug in pi and 12.5 squared. Okay, 12.5 squared, we do the exponent first, that's 156.25, and now I'm going to multiply 3.14 times that number, and I'm going to get 490.625 square feet. So almost 500 square feet for the dog. Alright, so that was it for our examples today. Go ahead and list something that you learned or were reminded of and any questions that you have. Remember, one thing at least for each prompt. Thanks for watching.